This artwork, created by the artist Andrea Chung, is titled Sink and Swim and was produced in 2013. In this piece, artist Andrea Chung's medium consists of glass bottles casted out of sugar, small metal and sugar cast of fishing material, such as hooks and weights, and fishing line. Chung deliberately uses these materials as a way to shed light on slavery and colonialism in the Caribbean. At the center of her piece are liquor bottles and fishing tackle that are carefully casted out of sugar. Accompanying the bottles are metal weights and hooks, which Chung tangles in fishing line. Her use of sugar is significant as it alludes to the sugar plantations of Mauritius, a sugar colony of England. The economic wealth of the Caribbean thrived on the sugar plantation industry. The Caribbean produced an immense amount of sugar, which was one of the main commodities in a multi-continental trade network. By the 18th century, the bulk of the laboring force maintaining the sugar plantations was made up of slaves. Slaves were treated as property of their European empires, even though they were responsible for the majority of sugar production on the plantation. Once slavery was abolished in 1835, former slaves left the sugar plantations and began to work as fishermen. Andrea Chung uses the fishing line in celebration of the traditional fishing techniques of the Mauritian fishermen. Each bottle hangs in the air above an expansive floor. Suspended above an ocean of concrete held to the sky by fishing line, it appears as each bottle is floating in a ship-like formation. The glass bottles slowly melt in time and fall to the floor where they shatter on the hard ground. The sugar cast bottles then begin to melt into the floor, and what once took the shape of a liquor bottle slowly becomes a formless puddle of liquid sugar. All that remains in its original state are the metal remnants of fishing tackle. Chung's artwork is not fixed, and in a way, its random flow matches the endless movement of the people who have passed through the Caribbean. Sink and Swim is temporal, and its experience and effect take place in time. The sugar is an ephemeral material, so even though Chung originally molded it into the shape of bottles, weights, and hooks, as time passes, the objects give way to their physical properties. Chung's initial attempt to compose the work is defeated as the sugar casts ultimately defer to gravity. Andrea Chung's intention was to comment on the environmental and social injustices that take place in post-colonial islands such as Mauritius. Former slaves chose to work as fishermen rather than serve their apprenticeships to the plantation owners after they were freed. Many Mauritian fishermen began to overfish the area, and as industrialization occurred, foreign fishing boats would utilize the fishing areas as well. As her composition of bottles slowly becomes decomposed, Chung symbolically illuminates the fading of the fishing trade in Mauritius. The metal fishing tackle that is left deserted in the sea of melting sugar recalls the way in which the Caribbean was endlessly exploited for its environmental wealth. Without the fishing trade, the Mauritian fishermen lost their way of survival, and the continuity of their community was threatened. Chung's own laborious process of casting sugar into bottles, weights, and hooks parallels the labor of the fishermen using the bottle and line fishing method. Although modern fishing devices are available, many Mauritian fishermen still use the traditional line fishing method. Chung pays homage to these fishermen who are socially criticized for being descendants of slaves. Andrea Chung's Sink and Swim is a celebration of the slaves who found a way, regardless of the ever-present weight of colonialism. Chung's Sink and Swim refuses to maintain form and refuses to remain a static object. This temporal piece embodies the dynamics and movement of the endlessly changing Caribbean. As Chung's piece forms itself in relation to the materials with their natural environment, Chung works to portray how the slaves of the Caribbean continuously remolded their lives in relation to colonialism. Andrea Chung was born in America, but her parents are of Jamaican, Chinese, and Trinidadian descent. The artist's last name, Chung, is a result of the migration that changed the face of the Caribbean. Much of this migration was historically tied to the sugar industry. This piece is personal to the artist's background and her desire to shine light on the history of her ancestors.